Hello, this is Dr. Natalie Lenore Blackman coming back to you with Matters of the Heart. And we are talking about the fire element, which is the heart and the small intestine. And we've really talked a lot about the heart. We haven't talked so much about the small intestine. The heart is considered the yin organ of the element, and the small intestine is the yang or the excretory element of the heart. And interestingly enough, Western medicine has now discovered that there are actually healthy bacteria that can nourish the heart, and they don't exactly understand how the bacteria nourishes the heart from the digestive tract, from the small intestine, but it has to be through the lymphatic system because they're connected in Chinese medicine. So an ancient modality of medicine, 3,000 to 4,000 years old, is now being proven absolutely correct. And I just loved that. Not that I need proof by an organization. I use my proof as my patients getting well, myself getting well, and seeing physical results. That's true proof in the pudding, right? That's true evidence-based medicine, is when we actually reverse disease, we get well, we improve, we allow the body to heal itself the way the Creator designed it to. We are just learning more and more about how to do that, or how to allow the body to heal itself. So, with that being said, we're getting ready to come into one of the most important times of the year, what I call the crux of the summer, and that's where the fire element goes into the earth element. The fire, being the heart and the small intestine, begins to transfer over to the digestive system, which is the stomach, the spleen/pancreas. And that time usually falls between July 7th and July 14th. It's a very, very important time, because if the heart or the fire element is unbalanced, then we are going to see an imbalance called damp heat. And no one likes damp heat. It's exactly what it sounds like. Inflammation, okay? And that inflammation can be lodged anywhere, okay? It can be lodged in your reproductive organs and make you feel very heavy and sluggish. If you're a man, it can make your prostate swell. It can make you have, there's no other word to say this, but it can produce hemorrhoids, which are very painful. So damp drops, it's heavy, it goes to the lowest parts of the body, and heat is inflammation, okay? What I see mostly in my patients is it settles in the small intestines and the large intestine, and we will oftentimes see vomiting and diarrhea. That's the most common, and that can last for 24 to 36 hours. It can also lodge in your back, in the lumbar muscles, and can make you have lower back pain. It can lodge in the cervical muscles, not as much as we see in the spring, because spring is heat with wind, and that usually goes to the upper part of the body. But sometimes damp heat will lodge in the upper parts of the body, especially in the dogs. And so sometimes that can be neck pain, lower back pain. And one thing that I used to deal with a lot in my life living in the South, when I had a lot of damp heat as a young person, was like feeling very heavy. I played a lot of sports, and I can remember hating my sports July and August, because I felt like my legs weighed 100 pounds, and running was very difficult. Moving just seemed so much harder than it normally was. And I never understood this, okay? I used to ask everyone to help me with this, and I could not ever get any answers. And it was damp heat. And that damp heat came from an imbalanced digestion. And I've talked about this before in other sessions, but one of the other main reasons I got into Chinese medicine was because of the answers that it gave me in my own life, and let alone in my veterinary career. But every summer during All-Stars, which would be, the first or second week in July, I would have a vomiting issue, and I would get so sick. And my mom used to call it a 24-hour virus. I don't know where she got that. She made it up, And so she would say, "Oh, you've just got the 24-hour virus again." And after a few years, I'm like, who gets a 24-hour virus at the exact same time every year? And I tell you that I knew it was the exact same time because I've talked to you a little bit about my dad being a coach, and I had to sit at practice in the middle of the heat in July on the bleachers and vomit in a bag because I needed to make sure I saw that practice, right? They didn't want me to miss any practices, which is probably part of why I have a little drive in me today. I don't give up very easily, but that happened every year for several years, and it was that I had an imbalanced fire element. Okay, I had excess heart fire, which comes from many imbalances, and we've talked about some of those. A lot has to do with the kidneys, which is in the winter. Some of it has to do with the liver, which is in the spring. Mine had to do with what's called dysbiosis, or an unhealthy gut bacteria of the small intestine. So the small intestine and the heart are connected in the fire element, okay? And dysbiosis occurs from, number one is leaky gut, which comes from vaccines when you're a child. Number two would be any form of antibiotics. And number three would be food sensitivities. And I had all of the above, okay? And so this really answered a lot of questions for me when I began understanding this calendar. And what I wanted to talk about in regards to this calendar today is the importance of being prepared, the importance of proactive medicine, which is what we are doing. Proactive medicine says, I don't want to find myself in the same place every year. I don't want to fall into that cycle. I don't want to sit on the bleachers vomiting in a bag every single year for one day. No, there's something that I can do differently to break that cycle, right? So that's what this entire YouTube channel is about, is breaking cycles of disease, reversing disease, learning how to create a space for healing in our body, learning how to prevent the disease processes in our body, and being proactive in breaking cycles. And we've talked about in all of the sessions that involves spirit, soul, and body, okay? So what I do with my patients, I get very excited about this time of year. I get very proactive. I like to see everyone coming into my clinic before the first and second week in July. And in fact, I had a client yesterday. We had already talked about this with her dog. This is her dog's season to get gastrointestinal upset. She brings her in yesterday morning, and I could palpate her stomach and was like, she's getting ready to blow with vomiting and diarrhea. And we were able, to get her on a plan to prevent her seasonal blowouts, right? But if we know that we have a season where the body tends to be imbalanced, we want to be ahead of that season. We want to break that cycle, okay? We want to be proactive. And that's what we're learning to do here. And in regards to that, we talked about the foods to feed for summer. We talked about our hot lemon water, which prepares the small intestine. It cools and opens up the liver and the lymphatics. We've talked about drinking our diluted apple cider vinegar in the evening before bed. for the gallbladder, for the liver. It also cools and calms the stomach. We've talked about doing some green juices in the summertime, doing away with bone broth. I'm going to mention that again because my dad asked me about it yesterday. No bone broth after February. I don't care what form it's in. I wouldn't do any bone broth after February. It has a very negative effect on the body in Chinese medicine after that date. Okay? And for the small intestine, we want to eat cultured foods. It's very big right now to make your own sauerkraut. A lot of people do sourdough. They drink cultured milks. Taking a awesome probiotic is very, very, very important. None of us could ever take too many probiotics, okay? Our guts are that depleted. Ion Biome makes a fulvic acid based support that helps your gut to support probiotics. We use digestive enzymes to acidify the gut so that your healthy gut bacteria will flourish and the negative bacteria will not. But the most important thing I wanted to talk about today, of course, has to do with the spirit. One definition of Wellspring is an original and bountiful source of something. An original and bountiful source of something. And when I hear that word original, I think of unique and maybe since the beginning. So I want to read a definition of original. It says, a present or existing from the beginning, first or earliest. Wow. Yes, original, the original thing, right? It was the first thing. So Wellspring is something bountiful arising from the source that has been there from the beginning. That's our Creator. That's what our Creator put inside of us. He put a wellspring of life inside of us. And He's teaching us how to draw from it, okay? How to draw up from that well. There's a song I love, and it says, spring up, O well, within my soul. Spring up, O well, and make me whole. If I can do a clip of that into here, I will. But that wellspring, it's in us. It was a source that God put in us when He designed us. He wants us to draw from it. It's His creative power. It's His dunamis power. And He's given it to us for proactive health. One thing we've talked about a lot in this fire element is anxiety and fright and being prepared for the bad news, right? Being prepared for the difficult times in life. I also said, if you think you're not going to go through difficult times in life, then that's self-deception. But life is difficult. I mean, it just is. We have to walk through a fallen world, so it is going to have difficulties. And in those difficulties, if we have been proactive, if we have ushered in the frequencies of heaven, if we have learned to abide in the secret place, if we have been uprooting all of the frequencies of hell, if we have the Father on pulling up everything in our soil and our soul that would choke out the word, that would choke out a happy, bountiful, prosperous, healing harvest. We've asked Him to uproot all of the things that would prevent our trust in Him. If we have done this work. And even if we have started this work, there's a grace that the Father has for us, right? But this work, it heals our heart. It heals our soul. So when the difficulties of life come, we're anchored. We are anchored in the hope. The scripture says that hope is an anchor for our soul. We talked about hopelessness. We've talked about hope deferred. We've talked about the fact that anxiety is trust in ourselves. And losing anxiety and getting rid of anxiety is understanding our trust is in the Father, right? So if we've done this work, if we've been proactive, then the heart will condemn us not. And when the storms come, and the winds blow, and the waves beat against the foundation, we will be unmoved. We will be like a tree that is planted by the rivers of water. We'll be like a cedar of Lebanon, Scripture calls it. We will be unshakable. We will be unmovable. We don't have to be tossed to and fro. We don't have to waver and doubt, fear, and unbelief. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to experience the frequencies of hell. We can experience life differently. It's being prepared. It's being proactive. I work in a field where every single person that comes to me that's unprepared is in the exact state of mind as the last person that came to me unprepared. They are in those frequencies of hell. They are distraught. They are confused. They are strifeful. They are fearful. They are anxious. And then I have the group that's proactive, and nothing shakes them. I love it. I love working with my proactive clients because it's always smooth sailing. And do you know what they all say when their pets get close to that time when they're going to cross over into eternity? When they originally started seeing me, and sometimes it can be 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. The ones that are proactive, do you know what they say? They always say, I never thought I would be prepared for the day for them to pass, but I am. I have peace now in passing. This work, it sets us free from the fear of death. It sets us free from the fear of the unknown because we've done the work. Because we've been prepared. We're preparing so we know, okay, this is good. This is going to work together for my good. This is okay. I can handle this. I don't waver. I'm not unstable. I'm not manic. I've been doing the work. My heart is grounded. My heart is centered. That is such a beautiful place to be. There's probably 1% of the population that actually reside in that place. But I pray that we're going to see that change in the coming years. That we're going to see a steadfast, anchored in hope, strong in will, resting in the secret place group of people that are not fazed by the storms of life. Okay, I hope you have a great day. And if this blessed you, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And we will get more into the small intestine element, getting ready for Earth season.